Okay, so I'm here at the Support Driven Conference with Chris from Babylist. I'm Marie, Chief Operating Officer with Boldr, and we're going to have a little bit of a chat about our relationship.
Yeah.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Chris Murray. I'm the head of support at Babylist. I've been there about 3 years and been in support leadership for about a decade. So.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
a decade.
Yeah, a lot of different industries, and it's fun. Good group of people to work with.
That's awesome. So I thought a fun place to start could be a little bit of context setting, or like setting the scene of what was going on within Babylist and within your world when you embarked on the journey of finding a partner for the relationship that we have today. So a little bit like how that decision was made.
Yeah.
And then I want to dig in a little bit about the nature of our relationship, which is a little bit different with us being an employer of record, EOR.
Yeah.
For Babylist, and we can dive into that in a little bit.
Before I joined Babylist, we'd actually experimented with offshoring support or using offshore resources, people, to manage our support queues.
Yeah.
And by the time I joined, we had about 20 people, all spread all across the Philippines.
Wow.
But they were employed or working for us through one-by-one contracts, right? And they're all using their personal devices. And when I looked ahead to what growth we would have, I knew we'd be growing a lot over the coming years. And so knew that it'd be hard to keep hiring everybody with one-on-one contracts. They were all using their personal devices. And so you don't want 40 to 60 to 100 people having all this business information on personal devices.
Yeah.
And it's also hard from an IT standpoint. And so we were looking for efficient ways to grow the team, but also retain these team members who had been there for a really long time. So some had been there already 3 years at that point, right?
Wow.
And so we wanted to do right by them. We wanted to retain their knowledge. And so we set a goal to grow efficiently, grow securely, and retain at least 80% of that work of those team members of that workforce.
How many did we retain?
100%.
Yay!
Yeah,
Look at
yeah,
this.
That's awesome. Yeah, it was amazing. It was really cool.
That's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
I've often been curious because we have clients or potential clients come to us when they're at a smaller scale, and they'll often do a price comparison between what I can pay somebody directly versus working through a BPO or a partner, and it's difficult to explain the difference.
Yeah.
But I've also often found myself in a position where my advice would be you should just work with independent contractors for the time being. But I know that there's a tipping point. There's a point at which that doesn't make sense anymore.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very helpful. It's a matter of scale and scalability. So once you're at a certain size, if you're going to grow significantly, and there's a compliance factor to it as well.
There is. Yeah.
I think I've seen that as well when there's acquisitions at play, or if a company wants to go public. Those are things that they need to consider, that these independent contractor relationships seems like a little bit of a gray area from a compliance perspective in a few different ways.
Yeah.
That makes it a little tricky. So it's a great way to start, get your footing and understand how to work with a global team.
Yeah.
But at some point, a partnership can just help you formalize it.
Yeah, I think about how many people it would take just to do the sourcing, the interviewing, the hiring, and then things go wrong with their devices, what strain that puts on the IT team, and there's tons there. And so working, like you mentioned, it's great to use these individual contracts to learn do the people in this area, are they able to serve the customer base that we hope in the way that we hope, and can we work together well? Yeah. But when you're ready to grow, you really do need someone in the area who knows local labor laws and can help you do those things in a time-effective way.
Yeah, great. And then obviously, I think you've got significant experience in this space. So you ran a formal process and you had a full RFP.
We did, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what you weighted in terms of importance there and what ended us up in this relationship? We worked hard for it, and we're very excited to be here.
Boldr did work hard for it. Yeah, we were very thorough, and we were very we didn't rush it. I think from when I started the discovery process until we signed with Boldr was 6 to 9 months, right? It doesn't always have to be that long, but the criteria we were formulating, we wanted to make sure we really did check all the boxes, right? And so, like I said, efficiency, whether that's both with cost and time, right? So basically scaling, scalability was good. We wanted people who had proven success track records, right?
Yep.
We wanted people who really aligned with our values, which is that we care about our people. And when I learned more about the BPO space or an offshore support space in general, you hear horror stories about the way that team members are treated, right?
Yeah.
And at Babylist, and for me personally, people are what make things work, right? And if you invest in your people, you see good things, and if you don't, you don't, right? And so, and it's both a short and long-term investment to invest in people. And so we went out and we looked for people who checked those boxes and took care of people. And ultimately, we went with Boldr because we felt our values really, really aligned, really genuinely. I talked to, at this point, I can't remember how many dozens of offshore potential partners. And Boldr felt the most genuine, like they cared about their people. And it rang true from the first call I had with the first sales rep I talked to, all the way through when I talked to David. And it was really cool just to see, like, no, this is the core of what we do.
Yeah.
And that I'll just kind of succinctly answer your question. Boldr checked all of our boxes and outshone others in the area of, like, no, they really do care about their people, and gave me the most confidence of being able to retain the most of our people.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. That's so nice to hear. It's super validating. I think that there's something in there, though, and you guys have worked with us for almost 2 years now?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
and the team has grown from 20-something to almost 100, I think. So it's been, it's obviously proven that we can scale. But I think that there's something hidden in those boxes that gets ticked that you get to then see when you work with a partner that I want to make sure we bring some light to here, which is obviously this is a difference we want to make in the industry is the way we treat our people. And we're always going to be proud of that, but I'm not naive that at the end of the day, it's the numbers that matter. It's making sure that the partnership is both economically viable for all parties involved, but that the quality is there. And so I'm curious, like, and in your experience, and I think you're a pretty data-driven individual, like, have you seen the results of being a people-centric organization, or the way that we operate, or the way that we source, and the way that we help you build this team? Have you seen the results of that, or what business results can you tie that to?
Yeah, I think in terms of, like, quality, the CSAT, customer satisfaction, is obviously huge in customer support world. But it's influenced by so many things, right? And so going back to just, like, those numbers, you always have to unpack that a little bit. And so you know, like, it varies based on, like, changes in the market, changes in the team, and, like, new features that get released. So sometimes that's not always the greatest thing for that. But when we look at their QA scores, they're really high. And when we look at the sheer amount of just great positive feedback that customers give these team members, it's great, right? There's tons of great feedback. And then from a, like, what it's unlocked from, like, a business standpoint, like you mentioned, we went from 22 team members to this year we're going to grow to over 100. It's not only, like, when we started with those first 22, they were all just doing one task on one team. And since then, we now have, you know, almost 100 team members and growing over that, and it's spread across 6 teams and 13 different functions.
Wow.
And so it's really unlocked a lot for the company, and it's been great.
Yeah, I'm curious how that has unfolded on your side of the business, because from where I'm sitting, we've had a similar growth experience with one of our founding clients, actually. So I've always had this visibility of the opportunity, and I've tried to figure out, like, how do I get the clients to see it? Because it's very easy. I mean, people often ask, like, what outsourcing do you do? And I'm like, you know, we find talent in these markets, and we have access to talent in these markets, and it's clear to me talent is equally distributed, opportunity is not. And when there is opportunities within organizations, they can actually leverage us to find talent in any area of their business. But we often get pigeonholed in customer support because it's the easy way in, it's most the known entity, most familiar. But then growing outside of those departments can be a little tricky. How did that unfold for you guys internally? Like, where was that unlocked to see, like, hey, this can be helpful in different areas?
You know, it's sharing the wins, right? And so when and truthfully, it was a little easier for me where I reported at the time to the CFO, and she could see, like, oh, you're growing this team this way. Could they help with other things, right? And so part of it was her, right? Like, seeing that opportunity, and then me talking about, like, oh no, we're seeing this great value add, right? And in her mind, like, it's her job to think about the cost, like, oh, this is more cost effective. So, like, how do we do that? And so we talked about different departments that could use help with, even if it's just, like, the beginning tasks, right? Amazing. And so, and given her position, she could see a lot more things. And so we partnered, and I reached out to a handful of department leaders and said, like, hey, these are the services they can offer. Obviously, I touched base with a few folks at Boldr to double check that those are things they can do. In my mind, it's like, oh, of course they can, but I did double check. And that's kind of how we started.
That's so fascinating. That is exactly what happened with the company I referred to earlier. And I've always seen that as one of the unlocks is when somebody on the executive team, usually the CFO, once they understand the opportunity in this, like it unlocks like a different lens on how to utilize a partner who has roots in these markets.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question that's coming to mind for me is how would you describe EOR or employer of record relationship compared to a fully outsourced solution? Like, I am put in a position to explain this often, and I would love to hear from your perspective. How do you describe the difference?
Yeah, for me, it's the flexibility and the control, right? And so when we were looking at different options, and that was a big thing for us. A big criteria point was like we do need to maintain control over our culture, right? We want to be able to pivot the need of like what these team members are doing to a reasonable extent, right? As we learn new things. And so for us, we've seen a lot of great wins where, and it kind of goes back to that expansion, right? We used to have just 22 team members doing one CS job. And now even just on CS, we have 2 different departments that they're helping with, and they're doing like 6 different jobs, right? Wow. And so that flexibility has helped us, grow as a business there. Whereas with the BPO, you have a lot of going back, finding out like, can you do this, negotiating like new contracts for all those things. And a lot of times they don't let you do some of those things. But the thing I think I have found most impactful with the EOR versus the like traditional BPO model is that we get to have influence on those people, on the team members' growth, right? And so we have team members that have grown from like level 1 agents to level 3 agents to shift leads, right? And so we get to be involved in their career growth, which is typically one of the stronger motivators that team members have. And it's led to really high retention. And I can tell you, having worked with VPOs before, I've seen attrition go as high as 50%. And when you're doing that, you're just constantly retraining, right?
It's very expensive.
It's super expensive, and it's super draining for the team members who are doing that. And it impacts all of your KPIs, right? But because we've been able to maintain control of the culture and help these people grow, we've had almost no attrition, right? Over the course of 2 years. And so it's been really great.
Awesome. Thank you. Any closing kind of remarks in terms of advice for companies or customer support directors that are looking to move into an EOR model or partner with somebody in an EOR model? Like, what advice would you give them to set that up for success?
I think first, like, know your priorities. Every like team and department and company is different, right? And so outlining those up front is really, really important as you look for the right partner and the right format, right? BPO might be the right fit for certain like functions or operations. But if you are looking to maintain control over your culture and like really be able to bring your brand to life with another team, and like looking for opportunities to grow those individuals as well, which is a strong motivator, and EOR is a great way to go. I'd also say like loop in big decision makers early, share your success stories, and then like look for other ways that other parts of the company can benefit from it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You got it.